Hello, runners, and welcome to Mr. Rubio Used to Run, the Running Warehouse podcast. This is episode number 5 coming at you, and I'm Mr. Rubio, the guy who used to run. This is my wingman, Connor, who still runs when his ankle isn't broken, and we have a special guest.
We do. We have a very special guest today. We're going back-to-back guests week after week. Last week, we had a big one, Craig Angles. This week,
bigger.
Maybe a little bit bigger. We got our footwear buyer, Becky. Becky, you've been in the shoe game for a while. You've been a runner for a while, but it was just recently that you became an ultramarathon runner. You're all in on it. You went from 10-mile long runs to 100-mile long runs. How did this happen?
I think once you get on the crazy train, you don't get off, you know? You just keep going. You say, I'm going to do a 50K, but I'll never do further. And then it's 100K, but I'd never do 100 miles. And then suddenly you're signing up for a 100-mile and then another one and another one.
It never ends.
And maybe next is a 200, you know?
Oh, geez. Well, you just completed one, right?
Yeah, I just finished Javelina 100 2 weeks ago. So we had a little crew from Running Warehouse, which was a lot of fun. And it was a great day. 27 hours, super slow, but I loved every minute.
And the most important part, what shoes were you wearing?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I actually wore 2 different shoes. I wore the Tecton X2, and then for the last 40 miles, I switched to the Mach X just because there's a little bit more room in the upper.
Well, I mean, me and Joe both come from the road running world, the track world, and I think it's sometimes hard to imagine what these ultramarathons are like. And I know there's some pretty crazy races out there. What's the craziest race that you've done? And then maybe what's on the bucket list of the craziest that you can think of?
So I've only been doing ultras for about 4 years now. So I haven't done a ton. And 3 of the ultras I've done have been Javelina. So I've done the 100K and then 100-mile twice. Probably the most challenging was Zion 100, which I DNF'd my very first. There was an eroded cliff that happened about mile 50. And at that point, you know, your legs are a little bit like noodles. So it was not the easiest descent. And then, you know, our whole team pretty much pulled out of that race at that point. But on the bucket list, I don't know if UTMB is in the cards at some point.
You should do that. That's a bitchin' race.
Yeah, I got to go to Odyssey this summer, and I don't know. Odyssey in Chamonix, and the time I spent in Chamonix was incredible. It's beautiful and unlike anything that we have in the States. So that's a possible contender. We'll see.
And Joe, I know you've spent a little time in Chamonix with the Hoka.
Hoka guys. That was fantastic. I mean, what's not to like? It was, but the thing is I was just watching, and I was getting ready to go to Annecy after Chamonix, and what happened was, for some reason they have I think it's a 46-hour cutoff for UTMB. Now, why isn't it 48 hours? Hell, I don't know, but it's 46 hours. So about 45 hours into it, I'm sitting in this restaurant right about 50 yards from the finish line, having a nice plate of homemade pasta with pesto, and had burrata on top of it and a glass of red wine. And this lady in her 70s is coming by at about 45 hours. And I go, man, you're such a loser. I mean, you're sitting here having a glass of wine and pasta and this, you know, looking at the sun and everything. And this whole just elderly lady, just, you know, she just worked me. But I mean, the energy at that thing at the start, when you have 2,500 people that are going out there to do this thing, it's really, really cool. Really cool. Yeah. And I was never an ultra guy because I had friends that did Western States back when I was competing. And I thought it was the stupidest thing ever.
It is a little bit stupid.
Yeah.
You know, I saw people at mile 95. There was a man who was hunched over and he couldn't hold his spine up anymore. And he was still shuffling along, just, you know, trying to make the cutoff. And I'm not sure if he did. I'm assuming he did because he pressed on. You know, people are tilting over to the side and like somehow they just make it work. And they're just so determined. It's really inspiring. And you make a lot of friends out there. And, you know, you just are having this shared moment or shared hours together potentially where, you know, nothing else, like you don't have to worry about anything else, but you kind of have this same vision and, you just get it done together. It takes a lot of grit.
I mean, I find ultramarathon running crazy, and I see some of these trails, and I got a video because I wanted to share today the video of the day.
Okay.
And I think this just really embodies how crazy ultramarathon running is. So we got Kilian Jornet. Take a look at this. Is this something that any ultramarathon runner could do? How skilled do you have to do? How skilled of a runner do you have to be to run a trail like this?
I don't think that qualifies as a trail. Just looks like a sheer cliff of boulders, and my palms are sweating right now watching this. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I think if I ran on this, I think I might.
I'm not afraid of heights. I don't like this stuff.
It's giving me anxiety.
I think I would like crab walk down that.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, you'd be holding on for dear life.
Yeah. Well, and I think that just shows how good Kilian Jornet is. I mean, he is fearless.
Yeah.
Very experienced. That's for trained professionals only.
It's not for us.
Yeah, not for us. And he's also holding a camera, I'm assuming, at the same time.
Yeah. Got to get that GoPro money.
Wow.
So just so everyone knows, we're in the middle of looking at shoes for fall of 24. So we're seeing stuff that might make the running event, but we're seeing a lot of stuff that will come to market next summer at the earliest. And so what we want to do was go over some of the key updates that we've seen that are either really unique or cool, or just some updates to some of the major models.
Yeah. And I think that goes with spring 24 as well. Really just all the excitement over the next year. We've seen so many good shoes in 2023.
Right.
I think a lot of us thought, like, can we get much better than this? But a lot of the brands are proving.
There's some good newness that's coming in 24.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So, Becky, you want to just start us off with?
What's the brand of the day? Who do you want to give that first spotlight to?
Oh, for fall 24, can I give a little extra love to the North Face for spring 25?
Of course.
Let's start it off.
Okay, so last week we got to preview a little bit of spring 25, and what I can say is the North Face has the most exciting trail line that I've seen, very well-rounded. They are bringing what will be, I think, the best in the space for trail racing, ultramarathon racing, for one of their updates that they're doing, and then there's another major update that is going to be max cushion, but they're going to their, dream foam, which is super critical foam. Should feel fantastic, and it's such a huge update from where they currently are. I felt like the upper materials that they're using are, cutting edge, and overall aesthetically, they look really good as well.
So you were at the headquarters, right? North Face?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Ultra, and you also went to Solomon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We saw Ultra and Salmon for fall product, and then got to preview the North Face there as well. So in the trail space, I don't know if we want to just hop into some of the other trail shoes coming out, but the North Face has the Ultra Mesa 500, which will be sort of like a speed goat, and that's coming out pretty soon here. But that's going to have a supercritical foam as well. And I think it's just going to be a really good overall experience for $155. And then we saw, for Hoka, we've seen some updates for fall as well in the racing space. I think one of their current models that they have that's going to be updated, it's going to jump up a bit in price, and it's going to have a booty construction. And then it's going to have what it's got new.
So this is the new
double PIBA layer.
Yeah. So this is the new trail racer, and there's been controversy. Was this the shoe that Jim Walmsley wore? We don't know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely unique. It's going to be a higher price point shoe, a little more niche, but interesting.
I think it'll be very niche just based off of the fit and the construction of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
While we're talking trail in the North Face, the one thing that I was thinking about was North Face has had ups and downs over the years, but they're never afraid to kind of push forward. We saw that with the Flight Vective, one of the first carbon-plated trail shoes on the market.
Yeah.
Was it a perfect shoe? No,
No.
but they got it out. They're not afraid to just keep pushing. They've done more with that Vective series, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see now that you've gotten that little bit of a sneak peek what they can do.
It looks like they're really in the future, and they are pushing the envelope. They're not afraid to take some chances. And that's really, what's the most exciting thing for us to see. So.
Well, I'll lead off the next one.
Okay.
Nike. I've been excited for them for a while. I've ran in all their super shoes, and this is a big year because we're going to get the Alphafly 3. We've all been waiting for it. We've seen images on Kipchoge, a lot of the top marathoners, still has the Zoom X foam, but very radical geometries. When you look at the shoe shape,
It's crazy looking.
Yeah, you're like, what is that? Still has the AirPods. We don't have a whole lot of information, but we have heard Nike confirmed early 2024. We're probably going to see some pairs, maybe
Right at the Olympic trials, probably.
yeah. But interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
And we're still seeing that Zoom X trickle on into other trainers and options from Nike.
What else do we see? We saw Nike yesterday. What else was exciting there?
Yeah, we saw the new Pegasus Turbo 4, which, the initial Peg Turbo was pretty exciting for the space in the category that it was in at the time. I think it was, one of the only kind of
super foam trainer.
Yeah. And then it departed from that a little bit. And then we know with the next Nature version with the recycled midsole that didn't quite hit the mark. So the Pegasus Turbo 4, as far as aesthetics go, it's a little bit of a nod back to the OG Peg Turbo. And then it's got the full length Zoom X midsole, no longer recycled materials. So it should be, I think it should be what people were hoping, that it would update to initially, and it didn't.
I think what we're seeing is the brands kind of moved in that category more towards comfort, and now it's moving back towards speed.
Yeah.
Because as we're seeing most of the time, like these aren't really comfort shoes. They're to go, you want to go faster in them,
Right.
That sort of thing. So,
well, next on up, Adidas.
Adidas, that's surprising as hell.
Yeah, and we can start with some of the shoes that are coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
Supernova Rise, and of course our favorite, the Adizero Adios Evo Pro. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, the $500.
The $500 one.
The $500 racing shoe.
Yeah.
Supernova Rise, Piba Foam. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's is it 140?
Yes.
And it's good looking. And
good price point.
Good price point.
Have you gotten to wear them yet, Connor?
Yeah, so I'm coming off injury, but I've gotten some just initial testing. I think the thing that a lot of people are going to have to realize is this isn't going to be your super racer.
No.
It's not going to have quite that pop, but I think for Adidas, they finally have a reliable daily trainer. It's under 10 ounces. It's kind of checking all the boxes of what you need. Is it a revolutionary shoe that's going to change the daily training space? No, but it's a good shoe.
Yeah.
So I'm happy there. And then we've seen some sneak peeks of Ultra Boost. I don't know how much we can really talk about it right now, but Ultra Boost has never really been a running shoe.
No.
It's always been the lifestyle shoe. Some people might run in it, but it's heavy.
It's not been part of the conversation, to be honest. I don't think Adidas has had something in the space of daily trainer, and now they'll have the Rise, which I put some miles in as well, and it does feel good. It's a good experience. The upper is nice, and then Ultra Boost, for what we can say, is
it's lighter.
It looks good.
It's a lot lighter.
It's a lot lighter. It doesn't have the cage anymore on the upper, so I think it's actually going to be a very runnable option from what we've seen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who do we get next?
All right. Do we go the new player to the scene, Puma?
Sure.
All right.
I actually didn't see the Puma showing. So
okay. Well, I'm going to enlighten you,
okay.
Joe.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Mag Max. That's their highest cushion shoe. Nitro Elite plus a little bit of nitro foam. I think it's probably going to be a Bondi competitor, but it just, when you look at all the specs, it seems to almost be in its own space a little bit. It's like almost like a Super Blast and a Bondi together. Interesting. I haven't been able to test it yet, but I like more stack. I like more cushioning. So something there.
Yeah, jury's out. I think, though, the experience based off of the nitro foam feels really good. And, I've worn the Deviate too, and that's always a fun shoe to run in. But this is just going to be more, plus having the Elite foam in addition to that. So I can't imagine it's going to be a good experience.
And I mean, Deviate 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's coming out in 24 as well.
Yeah, Deviate 3 update looks really good as well.
And I think what made Deviate 2 so good was versatile, amazing foam, that nylon plate, so a little bit more flexible.
And also the outsole was pretty durable.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And very grippy.
And I think a lot of people compared it to the Endorphin Speed 3. I think it's a fair comparison, but maybe lying a little bit more on the daily training side, where Endorphin Speed lied a little bit more on the speed side. So 2 good shoes.
I think it feels a little bit more stable than the Speed also.
Yeah.
And then
the final shoe from Puma, which we can't give a name, we can't give too much details, but Todd gave me a little bit of a sneak peek, I don't know, probably 8 months ago. You got a sneak peek, and Puma is doing crazy things in the running shoe space. All I can say is it's a wild concept, multiple plates, very, very high stack heights. We've seen shoes like the Prime X, but right. I think this is taking it up another level.
I think it's like 50 millimeters or more, right?
I haven't got actual specs yet, but
okay.
it's well up there.
Yeah, it's it looks like it's from outer space, but I think the point of it is a conversation piece that Puma's here and they're not afraid to try some crazy things. So
yeah, and that's part of the discussion is a lot of the brands that we look at are publicly traded. And so there tends to be really conservative committees deciding what product there is. And then you have the smaller brands that just say, screw it, we got to do something crazy, right? So then you get, companies like Hoka, which is really being conservative. Brooks is really conservative in terms of updates and things like that. Because, again, you have to make money for your investors. And so Hoka's not going to mess with the Bondi, right? I mean, the Bondi customer, there's a lot of them, and they have a certain expectation of how that shoe should perform. So are they going to come with a supercritical foam in that thing? Probably not, right? They're going to do an old school EVA, maybe soften it up a little bit, but that's the other thing with Hoka's, they need to be soft. And the current Bondi isn't the softest experience that there is.
And I think with that being said, Hoka, maybe the last few years hasn't been the most aggressive. But I think looking into 24, they're one of the few brands we can't say too much info on, but there's actually
some excitement.
Yeah, they are moving in the right direction in the foam space, in the plate space. I think there's some unique options, and even a new shoe at that $160 price point that
has a supercritical EVA.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's a more runnable version of a Bondi.
Yeah, higher stack shoe.
Wider
Yeah, wider base net. Looks pretty good. I think it'll definitely be more runnable, and maybe between like a Clifton and a Bondi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think Hoka's actually back in the conversation, and from some of the concepts we've seen from Jean-Luc, if some of that stuff gets implemented, they could skyrocket to the top.
And they're also introducing a new super trainer.
Right.
So going to be a little bit on the pricey side, but it's going to have all the bells and whistles.
And I tried it, and it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm back bullish on Hoka. We'll see what they can do, but yeah,
cool.
But they're not the only player in the space. There is a lot of good shoes. Next on up, we'll go Asics.
Okay.
So I think the most recent shoe, the Nova Blast 4. Taking the heritage of the Nova Blast, it's done really well the past few years. Mm-hmm. It's been a running warehouse shoe. We were the first people to really adopt it.
Yep.
And now they added a little bit more stack, a little bit softer shoe. If you liked the last Nova Blast, you're still going to like this one, but I feel like it just feels a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, it seems like a really nice upgrade. And then as far as, the aesthetics go, they have softened it a little bit. I know it was a little bit disruptive initially. But I think they've done a really nice job with the update, and, so far doing well.
And then on the speed side?
So we got Metaspeed updates coming.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of information on that either, other than we've seen pictures of Emma Bates, Sarah Hall wearing the shoe.
Yeah.
It looks interesting. It still looks like some crazy sidewalls. It looks like Flight Foam Turbo, but we don't know. There might be a new foam, but I think it just shows ASICS is continuing to progress in the race space. Magic Speed supposedly might have some Flight Foam Turbo added. So, yeah, I mean, ASICS is looking solid.
Yeah. And then New Balance, they had a pretty good lineup.
And that might be, that might even be...
Understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Rebel 4...
That thing is...
It might be the shoe of the year.
It's fantastic.
Well, we've been waiting for it since we saw it at TRE last year.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely, it was the highlight then. It's
Right.
still a highlight.
Danny Orr brought it out in a locked box, and we
Yeah.
saw...
This was a year ago.
Yeah, nothing better for the price point that you're going to get.
No way. It's got PIBA, right?
$140, PIBA blend fuel cell. So it's not going to be the 100% PIBA you
Right.
see in the Elite version, but it is going to be a PIBA blend. It feels amazing. Still no plate, higher stack. I mean, this shoe is killer.
Yeah. 140
I feel like
bucks. It's a slam dunk.
They're losing money on this shoe. No,
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have upped the price.
they
for
could
sure.
have definitely upped the price.
Right. And then we have the SC Trainer.
You know, SC Trainer, I don't know if we've seen an update from V2. Have we seen V3 yet?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. But we do have the SC Elite V4.
Right.
Which that one is going to be the first time we see that 100% PIBA foam. Before, I believe the fuel cell of the past versions was, I think, a TPEE.
Yeah.
It was never 100% verified, but now it has been verified. PIBA foam, it's going to be just as good as the other competitors. Carbon plate, max stack, everything you need for race day.
And what was the other racing flat they introduced?
Ooh, another. Oh, well.
Well, what about the new faster trainer that they're going to introduce for fall? Like $200 price point.
Yes. So we can't name this
Yes.
shoe yet, but I have done a lot of testing in it. And this is, I would say this is kind of that blend of a Nike Invincible and a Super Blast. So you get that super foam feel. They're using fresh foam geometries in a fuel cell package. I mean, this is going to be the shoe to look for. I test everything. And when I got this shoe on my feet, I kept just wearing it every day. All my other shoes I put over in the bin. I was like, I'm just going to wear this shoe. It's going to be a little pricier, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Does it have a plate?
No plate.
No. Okay.
Not have a
This
plate.
is all about premium comfort with energy return for your easy days, your long runs. Not going to be the fastest shoe. I picked it up a little bit in it. It's not going to be a super light shoe, but it feels just amazing.
And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing super shoes that don't have a plate.
Yeah.
That's like the next coming of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just hard to wear a plate all the time.
No, it is.
You know, I don't think
yeah.
it doesn't seem great for the ankles.
It's
and
not great for, everyday running.
Yeah,
It
for
definitely
sure.
isn't. Yeah.
So we are starting to see more brands.
Yeah. And they have,
Get into that
what, New
space.
Balance had that other, I'm lost on the name, the other racing flat that,
So they had the new Pacer.
That's it.
Yeah, and so we've seen a couple athletes, I think, wearing some prototypes of it, and what we know, lower stack, carbon plate. We haven't seen anyone nail it yet.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem to be quite as low stack as where the Pacer was. So it'll be interesting to see
that's
where
gonna be
that shoe goes.
Very niche shoe.
Yeah.
Very, very niche shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
But it's
I mean, I'd rather have it.
than not have it.
yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay. Mizuno.
Oh, yeah. Mizuno's back in the game.
Mizuno's back, baby.
That was probably the biggest surprise of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a few years of a little bit of staleness, and then Rebellion Pro came out and just skyrocketed them back into the game.
Yep.
And now we're seeing the update to the Rebellion Pro version 2. Mm-hmm. And then we're also seeing a training companion with the Rebellion. Ooh, what is the name? We've got the Rebellion Flash 2. So this is going to be the update to the Rebellion Flash. And I think what makes the Rebellion Pro so interesting is the geometries of the shoe. It's got the super foam, it's got the pop, and really aggressive geometries. Version 2, it just takes those geometries to the next level. You look at this shoe and you're like, how can I run in it? But once you start running fast, it's pretty unique. You definitely feel that propulsion. And I think we're going to continue to see that. Like we talked with the Alphafly, brands are using geometries to their advantage to get, that mechanical advantage on race day.
And, the other thing is Mizunos are actually soft now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all because
Yeah.
Mizuno's always been very on the firm side.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people that love Mizuno firm,
Yep.
You're going to be bummed. But
Yeah.
I
And
think the majority of people are really going to enjoy the experience of the new Flash shoe. It's a really good shoe.
Yeah.
Everyone that tried it on in the meeting really enjoyed it, really liked it.
Yeah. All right. What do we got next? We've
Saucony.
How could we forget Saucony? Because
can't
Saucony also had pretty much, I think, when you look at the full line of shoes, was probably the best or one of the best full lines.
Right. It looked good. And the thing that really caught my attention was the update to the Triumph, right? Full PIBA midsole, right?
Yeah.
And it looked good.
Yeah.
The colors were good. It has more checks than anything else in that category.
Yeah. I don't know how much we can talk about that shoe, but it was interesting. But the shoes we can talk about, Endorphin Pro and Endorphin Speed. So we've seen Endorphin Pro, some sneak peeks again on the pros, getting ready for the Olympic trials. And Endorphin Pro is going to take a little bit of shift from the last version. So we had full length Power Run PB. Now it's got the blend of Power Run PB and Power Run HG. So if you remember, HG was used in the Elite. It was a little bit firmer, but had better energy return. So you're taking the best of two foams, mixing them together, and it seems like a home run. I mean, it's going to be, I'd say, the shoe for more people. The Elite, I think, is a little more niche. It's going to be for your higher end runners, really efficient runners.
Right.
Where the Pro, I think most runners are going to be able to get the most out of it.
Yeah, it's a nice shoe.
Yeah.
Really
and
nice.
then Endorphin Speed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the training companion, still full length Power Run PB. I think the look of the shoe, it looks a lot better now, and still blends a lot of those training elements. You can use it for daily training, but also fast enough for workout day.
Yeah, I think in many respects it's like the Peg Turbo going back to the faster shoe, less on comfort and more on speed.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it'll continue to be a leader in the category, or one of the top shoes.
I mean, every brand that comes in, we're always comparing, well, look what Saucony's doing with the Endorphin Speed. I mean, a nylon plate, full-length super foam. It's not a half and half like a lot of these brands are doing. I think sometimes to save some money, sometimes for stability, but I mean, Saucony's doing a great job with that.
Doing a
shoe.
fantastic job. Yeah. So who else do we have?
I mean, we've hit the big players. I mean, is there anyone left?
And we'll see a lot of this stuff at the running event.
Yeah. I mean,
so I don't know when this is going to post, but
this will be live once right after, a little bit after the running event.
Right.
So we'll see a lot of these previews, maybe a little bit more. But I think these were probably the most exciting shoes, and more to come. But hopefully we didn't get in too much trouble giving too many details out.
We didn't spill all the secrets. Just some.
But 24 is going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, how do we keep upping this year after year? And I think we're seeing some of these sneak peeks, and it seems like the brands just keep taking it another level. So
I would suspect that we're going to start seeing more in geometry stuff, but really weight reduction is going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
Because there's really not much else you can do.
Yeah.
And that Adidas, whatever the stupid ass long name of this thing, Evo 1.
Yeah.
What's that, 5 ounces? Less than 5 ounces?
Under 5, 4.8.
Right. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
With that stack and everything.
Every brand is going to have that shoe as their target.
And the only part of it is you can't really scale that shoe. There's a lot of hands on it.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why it's so expensive. But you can't really mass produce that shoe.
Yeah, but at the same time, when the Vaporfly first came out in 2016,
mass produce that.
It was very, and I know a lot of people like to say that was a strategic move by Nike.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were there. There was only so many that they could get done in the beginning, and then as time went on, they were able to scale it and get more. But I mean, when you get these new processes, it's tough to do, and especially that Evo. From what I've heard, we don't have anything verifying this, but it seems to part of it is like a hand shaven process.
Yeah, what you call it? Russ, was it from
Topo?
From Topo. Oh, we didn't talk about Topo.
We should talk about the Spectre too.
The Spectre is really good.
Yeah, worthwhile. It'll be like a big brother to the Cyclone too, and
but it's full length P-backs.
Yeah, full length P-backs. It's lighter.
Yep.
It doesn't have a plate. It's lighter. It looks good.
Good price point.
Yeah, good
165,
price point.
I want to say.
160. They
160.
held price,
yeah.
But it's going to be a much better experience, I think, underfoot. I mean, the original version, Spectre 1, feels good, but it doesn't have that pop that you want it to have, and I think that was a little bit of a miss, and this second version certainly should.
And you can't forget about the toe box shape. You know, for people that have a little bit wider forefoot or just want that more room to allow your toes to splay, you're going to get that in a really fast, versatile package.
Right. One thing that we saw from New Balance that I don't know how many people are going to be excited about, but the MT10, was it?
I don't even know about this. Explain.
The old trail shoe.
Minimal trail shoe.
Oh, in our past podcast.
Yeah, the minimal trail shoe.
So it's got a 4 mil drop with a little bit of. So if you're really into the minimus trail shoes,
it's returning.
It's returning.
You're right.
Right. Mm-hmm. So there are going to be people that are looking for that shoe.
Yeah, they don't really have a lot of options right now.
Yeah.
If any that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, minimal trail running's been a little bit on the decline for a bit. So it's not going to be quite as minimal as some of the past versions.
But it was it's a knockoff on the original MT10. So the MT10 had a little bit of a just 4 mil, I think, drop in it. It had a little bit more padding. It's not significant, but it wasn't like the one. The one had nothing, right? It was just basically you running on cement. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Joe, what's the internet have for us today? I know you've been scavenging the internet for all of the best questions, all the craziest people.
Okay, I have two things. This one is, they're both from Running Shoe Geeks. So this one's an anonymous person. It says, hello guys, been torn if I could get Adizero Boston 12 or Nimbus 25. Purpose of the shoe is mostly to be part of my daily trainer and some speed work. I'm slightly pronated, land on my midfoot, have wide toes. Current goal is training for 21K and marathon. Any thoughts would be much appreciated. Many thanks. Now, what we have here is someone that's comparing two shoes that have two entirely different purposes, right?
Very different experiences. Right.
I mean, one's designed to go fast.
Yep.
And one's designed to go slow. I mean, the Nimbus is a comfort shoe. It's very difficult to run fast in that shoe, and the Boston is not designed to go slow. It's designed to go fast. So there's a lot of confusion out there about So a more likely comparison would be like the Boston versus the Endorphin Speed, or the Triumph versus the Nimbus, right? That'd be more appropriate. But when you come at that question is just it's apples and oranges, right? So,
and I think those kind of questions get asked quite a bit because they're both leaders in their space. So people, they hear about it, they hear the hype, but again, different shoes for different purposes. And you have to get them on, try them out, and really ask yourself, what am I going to use the shoe for?
Yeah, it's difficult to have one shoe that's going to do everything. I mean, you could, in theory, wear either for daily training and speed work, but the Boston will feel better for speed work, and the Nimbus is going to feel better for daily training, easy recovery runs.
Easy recovery runs, yeah. The second one is from Running Shoe Geeks. It's Alfred Lalu. So if I butchered that name, sorry about that. So, quote, lost interest in the Asics Super Blast early as it was far from my expectation of a max cushion shoe. I like plush but responsive, like New Balance SC Trainer V2 on Cloud Eclipse, and the Super Blast feels like a brick to me compared to the other two shoes. Doug Stewart and Stephen McIver, I think it is, suggested get rid of this, said swapping the insoles of the Super Blast made a huge difference in the shoes. And so I replaced them with the insoles of the Saucony Triumph 20. And yes, it certainly gave the shoe a pleasure feel underfoot. This has definitely rekindled my interest in the shoe and pushes it back into my weekly rotation. So diving into that a little bit, the average insole that comes in a running shoe suck. They last 10 or 12, maybe 20 miles, and they're designed for initial step and feel. They don't offer much of anything, except two brands. One is Saucony, and one is Skechers. And explain what this midsole or this insole is.
Yeah, I mean, we've started to see more of brands trying to up their insoles, and this actually has a Power Run Plus midsole, so it's a beaded foam, and it's going to be softer, better energy return, and just it's built to last longer miles. It's not going to bottom out immediately.
Right, and so this person's experience makes sense, right? Because it's a beaded insole that's actually designed to hold up, versus the average insole in the average running shoe it's not very good.
Yeah, and these are more expensive to do.
Yeah,
but
the experience is better.
The experience is better.
Yeah.
And oftentimes with insoles, we'll find that when we measure stack, you run 10, 15, 20 miles, you remeasure the stack, it's losing several millimeters just almost instantly. So having a good insole, it's not going to be, the end of the world, but at the same time, it does make a difference.
It does make a difference, right? So I was going to show people a little tweak here to save some money.
Okay.
So something like a Super Feet right here is oftentimes people go in a store and buy a new pair of Super Feet with every new pair of shoes. And you don't really need to do that. So once you're done, once this top layer wears out, which should be at the use of one pair of shoes, you can actually rip this off of here, and the plastic thing doesn't go bad. So you can actually put that plastic thing in the bottom of your shoe, put this on top of it, and this molds to it.
There's a hack right there. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Back in the 70s when they invented these kind of insoles, removable insoles, a lot of people were, orthotics? And they would come with something like this, but the orthotics were a couple $100. So you didn't really have a choice. You had to rip the thing off the top and then use this insole to mold to it. So
yeah, plus I imagine that would actually fit perfyly in the shoe since it's already designed for it.
It works really well. So there you go. Save yourself some money. Yep. You want to talk about Eric's closet?
Okay, we can go right into it. Yeah. I mean, Eric, he's been bringing some crazy stuff recently, and this week he did not disappoint yet again. So we've got.
I like that the box is still with it.
It's this is unused. So this is Go Light. You've probably never heard of this brand before.
Never heard of that.
Well, they do packs and clothes.
Yes. So Running Warehouse carried the packs around 2007, 2008, and we did really well with the packs. Yeah. They were favorites. They performed well. They fit well. They decided to venture into the running shoe space. Now, just looking at it, it's crazy. I don't know of any other shoe that looks quite, maybe a Balenciaga. But their whole spiel was the cushioning came from the outsole lugs. So you've got these massive outsole lugs, not much midsole, just feeling it pretty hard, pretty comparable to the trail shoes of that time. But a unique shoe, definitely had some grip to it. I don't know how it performed. It was not used. And then Go Light, they were supposed to come to market in around March 2008. They decided to go a different direction. I think Timberland.
Yeah, Timberland is a parent company for them.
Yeah, they decided it wasn't the route they wanted to take. So we've got
like
one of the few pairs in existence right
it's
here.
Like a pre-on shoe, right?
A little bit.
We have the outsole serving much of the cushioning.
Yeah,
for the shoe.
Yeah, definitely some on cloud-like inspiration. Do you think, Becky, would you wear this in a trail race?
Oh, it's hard. I mean, the name Go Light with this much rubber on it is very interesting. It's a little heavy for me. I think I couldn't do that.
Another funny part about that, 15-ounce shoe. So,
oh my gosh.
At the time, maybe a little bit more in line, but nowadays, I mean, I don't think I can think of.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that
No.
That's a pound.
We don't even like when it's more than 10 ounces.
Yeah.
So imagine 15.
And I talked with Eric. He said he was interested in bringing this shoe in back in 2008 because it was so different.
Yeah.
But at the same time, these were pricey shoes. So,
175, 160?
I couldn't find the actual price on this shoe. This was one step down on their elite level shoe, which had a carbon fiber heel. So an innovator in the space. But it was $160 for their highest end shoe. And that at the time was almost unheard of in 2008, 160.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Balenciaga would sell these for like $900.
So you're saving money there.
It's a steal.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, we've come a long way in the trail space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So next up, we have Pimp My Run, Physiology 101 kind of thing, Riz My Fizz. So in a previous podcast, I said the next podcast we would talk about the Fick equation, finish it up. But we had a special guest, and that went out the window. So I'm going to address it now. So the Fick equation, just as a reminder, is a theoretical VO2 max. So the first part of it was left ventricle, your cardiac output. So you do short intervals to strengthen your left ventricle so you can pump more blood through your body. The next part of it is the AVO2 difference, which is the blood that goes out of your heart, goes to your working muscles, and then comes back through your veins. So the more efficient your body is at using oxygen, the faster it's going to go. And that's why you do tempo runs, because it builds the pathways. So it's similar to driving in LA, especially right now, or San Diego or San Jose, anywhere in California, where you have cars which are like your red blood cells trying to get somewhere at 8 in the morning, and there's not enough freeways, right? And so you get stuck. So if they build more freeways and more pathways, then the more cars can get to wherever they're going, right? And the same thing when you do tempo runs and stuff like that. You're building up more pathways, more mitochondria, and also works on getting the crap out, right? Because you have byproducts, waste product that needs to be pulled out too. So you do tempo runs and you do short intervals, and that's all you need to do to get your competitive running thing going. So
how long does that take for you to make a notable improvement?
A notable improvement is years, And I remember, people say, how fast should a tempo run be? And Bob Larson, a legendary coach from San Diego, he coached the Hummel Toads that won nationals.
1976
national champions. He coached at Grossmont College, had fantastic teams there, went to UCLA, then coached MEB to an Olympic medal. And Bob is a very, very funny man. I have very funny stories about Bob, but I can't tell them on this thing. And his definition of a tempo run is you can talk, but you don't want to. And so when I have athletes ask how fast should I do this, I'll be at like the 2 mile point, and I'll ask them how they're doing. If they can answer me, that's good. If they can't answer me at all, then I tell them to slow down. And sometimes you have people, and I just remember Allie and Cordy running by, just talking and talking and talking and talking, and going, "You guys really need to pick this up. This isn't a tempo run.
It's just a casual pace.
A casual pace of that."
Well, it's funny because you usually have the opposite problem. I feel like a lot of people, with how common tempo runs are, it's one of the, I feel like, most misunderstood workouts. A lot of times people end up racing their tempos. They're going basically at their race pace, and then they have nothing left for race day.
Right. I mean, that was our conversation with Craig, right? He was talking about when he was Ole Miss, they were ranked top 10 in the United States, and so they started hammering their tempo runs, 8 mile tempo runs, and finishing at 4:30 or 4:40 pace, and they ended up getting 30th place. And the following year, they cut the tempo runs in half and slowed them up, and they got 5th or 6th or something like that. So, there's a diminishing point on tempo runs. So you better do them longer and slower than like a race, like a 5K or 10K, that sort of thing.
What about like rate of perceived exertion, when they say like what would a tempo run be on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, that one's a little difficult because my 7 is not your 7.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can do calculations based on someone's race time. I mean, ideally is whatever somebody runs a half marathon in, that's what they should do a 4 or 6 mile tempo run in. Okay. Is that time. That's
so basically you want to be able to say a couple words at a time, but you don't want to be speaking full sentences.
Right. You're not going to have like if you're running with your training partner.
Yeah.
It's like, how you doing? Good.
Fine.
Great. Yeah, great. Not talking about what you're going to have for dinner and, the recipes that you're following and that sort of thing. So,
Makes sense.
Just one more topic on the tempo run.
Yeah.
A big factor of your own training that you've adopted, or that a lot of the Aggies have adopted, is the midweek long run that sometimes has a tempo component in it.
Yeah.
How important has that been to adding into a workout structure?
It's a pretty big deal. So it's like an aerobic threshold. So there's anaerobic threshold and aerobic threshold. So the idea is that it's about a 90-minute run, and the last 30 to 40 minutes are going at a good clip. It's not as fast as a tempo run, but it's just certainly not jogging.
Yeah.
So for my guys that are running around 14 flat, it's going to be like 5:45, maybe down to 5:30 pace. But a tempo run, they'd probably be under 5-minute pace.
Okay.
All right. But there's only one way to get that done, and that is to be fit.
Yeah.
Right. And you do it in the hills and stuff like that. So we have Poly Canyon, and that's what the high school does on Mondays. They have late start Mondays, and they'll do Poly Canyon, do like 12 miles, and then hammer the last part as they get fitter, which is why they have one of the best distance teams in the state, right? It's just aerobic strength. But if you can get those done once a week, and you don't need to push the pace, but you have in the back of your mind, if I feel good, I'm going to bust it. And when you're fit, you can get that done.
Do you feel like that applies to ultra
Yes.
training as well?
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, how do people train? I have no idea how you train for ultras, right?
I have incorporated it during cycles before, but I didn't this last time. And I felt even better this time, but I think it's just more of, getting used to it, getting your body gets used to being out there for so long.
Right.
So you adapt, but yeah, it definitely breaks up the training a little bit to put in some speed work, I think.
And that used to be my trick when I go on business trips. I would do a fartlek run because otherwise you're just looking at your watch and it takes forever. Whereas if you do like 10 or 20 times minute on, minute off, it goes by pretty quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can be efficient. If you got 30, 40 minutes, you can get a pretty good workout in a quick time. Yeah. So that's always a good one to sneak in.
Yeah. But what do we have now? I think that's...
we've hit the main stuff. We talked about in past episodes the history of running shoes. Today we looked a little bit towards the future. Maybe we go around the table, talk about the one shoe maybe you're looking forward to most in the collection of 2024 shoes. I think for myself, I think it's between... I think the Rebel 4 is going to be the shoe
mine.
Use the most.
Yeah.
It's just the value, the feel, the versatility.
The look.
It's got everything checked. I don't know how a lot of these brands are going to compete against that shoe. The Alphafly, I think every competitive runner is going to be wanting that. And then I'll just put a third one in there. The new Puma shoe, the overstacked multiple plate. I'm just interested in it. I want to feel it. I love every brand that is willing to just do something that no one else is willing to do. So that'll be also on the list.
It'll be a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah.
And as a short person, I can say, I could be like 6 feet tall on that thing. I don't know. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for... honestly, for the Mag Max from Puma, I think that'll be exciting for me. I love a lot of cushion, and then just having like a little bit more pop to it, I think will be great.
Next trail race shoe?
Oh, that's a good question. I think probably something from the North Face. Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. That'll be my whole lineup, I think.
Cool.
And Joe, you used to run, so this won't imply... No.
I actually did run this morning.
Okay.
I started running again because I pulled my hamstring. That's a long story, but anyways, I started running again, and you know what? Running hurts.
It does.
Especially when you're starting up. So I dropped my car off to get some work done this morning, and ended up running back here.
Yeah.
3 miles doesn't seem like a long ways unless you haven't run in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, it can feel very long.
So to bump up that mileage in 2024, what's going to be the shoe to get you that extra mile? Maybe that New Balance Super Trainer?
Maybe, or that actually leaning towards the new Hoka, the
Yes.
160 with
Yep.
the right,
Yeah.
the supercritical EVA
Yeah.
and wider bases and so forth. It's just a matter of
Right.
how soft it is. Because that's the other thing is when you have these supercritical foams, oftentimes they're way too soft for walking around in. And I think that's part of the thing why people like the Bondi, because they like that firm, stable feel. And when you get into things like the first edition of Supercomp Trainer, it was a little, same thing with Prime Strong.
Yeah, a little
yeah.
squirrely.
A little squirrely. And if you're,
You can't take a corner in that.
no, and if you're using it primarily for walking, right, it's kind of like you're drunk, right? And I can imagine if you're in your 70s or 80s and going on your morning walk and you're losing your balance is probably not the ideal thing.
Yeah.
You want something that's going to be firm and more stable.
Yeah. And I think that shoe you're talking about, because you walk a lot in the Bondi,
Yeah.
that'll be a little bit more geared towards running, while
Right.
you'll still use that Bondi
Yeah,
if
the
you're
Bondi
walking.
is fantastic for walking around and standing in at work and stuff like that. It's a little stiff for me for running.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a similar experience, something that's stable, but just a little softer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bondi's a Disneyland shoe.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
definitely. Like if you want to be comfortable all day walking around.
Yeah.
perfect shoe for that. So I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And sharing your knowledge. That was good. And I want to thank the listeners too for tuning in.
And what can they do to help that algorithm bump this out?
Like, subscribe. And seriously, if you go to our YouTube thing, there's a comment section. Ask us questions if you want. I mean, we'll do our best to answer.
You might be featured on the next podcast.
You never know.
And of course, we've got streaming on Spotify, Apple Music, but if you want the full experience, you got to watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. And we actually had our first guest who should show up. When will that one show? After TRE, after Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this episode won't even be out then.
No, this will be after the fact. And we have more guest speakers that are coming on.
Yeah.
One that a lot of people don't know, but he is a fantastic human being, is Keith Kelly. And we'll be interviewing him at the running event. Just a really nice guy, really fun. But he also won the 2000 NCAA Division I cross country title. So,
Well, I think that's the whole point of this podcast. We're bringing on people that are unique characters in the space.
Mm-hmm.
You don't normally get to hear their stories, but we go around to all these different events and we just have fun. We get to see the behind the scenes, but not everyone else does.
yeah.
So a lot more fun to come.
Yeah. There we have it. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Peace out.